Hello, everybody. I am Sarah Caminiti, and I am so excited for this incredible group of people all gathered together from all over the world to talk about something we all consume all the time, which is CX content. And this is a time for me to understand how folks that have turned this into a career, a very successful career, found themselves here, think about CX content, what they see for the future of CX content. I may not actually ask any of those questions, but I could. We'll see where this conversation goes. So let's get things started. We're going to start over what I see on my left side of the screen. We got Luke Jamieson here. Luke, you are in Florida, but you're usually in Australia. Welcome.
True. Thank you. Crocodiles there, alligators here.
And Luke, you just started a new role.
I did, yeah. Just a dream job, to be honest. Dream job with a company that does what they say they do. Be who I am and give me a little leash to just be creative and be me. And
so happy for you. So happy for you. And they made a billboard.
The team over at Parada, they're great. Yeah, and they made a billboard. So,
yeah, because
does it I bet on board?
I love it.
Literally on board. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. It was crazy. Next, we have Matt Patterson, who many of us are familiar with from the Supportive podcast. And Matt, you are in Australia. So
yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Usually in Australia, currently in Australia.
Check.
Yeah. I'm at Help Scout. I've been at Help Scout for a long time, 9 years almost, next month, I think, which is, in internet terms, super long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited to be here.
Yay. Thank you. And next to Matt, I see the wonderful Jen Weaver, who is starting her journey into this new career of CX content creation. And I'm so honored that you would be open to having this conversation and share what you've learned and ask some questions probably yourself from these guys. And welcome.
Yeah, a lot of the questions that we might talk about, I'm here to learn. But yeah, I started my content journey in December with a podcast, and I create content for support managers and leaders for Tetra and our new tool Support Man. And I've been in SaaS in either support or success for 10 or 11 years now, but content is new, so very exciting.
And you're doing such a great job. It has been such a joy to see all of the stuff you've been producing. So well done. And finally, we have Matt Beran, the other Matt, who is not from Australia, the man that showed me all of the different types of technology you could possibly have. And welcome. I'm so pumped you're here too.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm glad to be here. I take a little bit of a different angle on the CX stuff. I've been in the IT industry for 20 years, over 20 years. I don't want to give away how old I am, but I take what I learn in the CX space and apply it in IT. So it ends up being more like employee experience more often than customer experience, but same rules apply in a lot of ways.
Totally. And I mean, Luke, this is something that you speak on all the time about the connection between the customer experience and the employee experience, because everything the employee is feeling, the customer is going to feel in the long run.
And I think like Matt, so I work now in an organization that probably has a history in IT, and what I find has been really, what I found super interesting was the connection between, we've talked about this before, Matt, and you've said CX adjacent, which I gave you a hard time about because I don't think it's CX adjacent at all. IT has such an important role in supporting employees. They can do a good job. When you're supported as an employee and you've got all the right tools, you get confidence. Confidence helps so much. It's the 50% you need to build trust, and the other part is actually then the knowledge, right? So if you can be confident and have the knowledge, that's so good for customers.
So good. Could not agree more. So now that we got to know everybody, I am going to dive in with our first question. And I'm actually going to put Jen on the spot here because I want to talk a little bit about breaking into CX content and finding your voice and your audience. And since this is something that you've been doing right now, figuring out on your own here, I would love to know, like, what helped you get comfortable sharing your perspective publicly, and was there a turning point?
Good question. Yeah, I've always been a jump in person. So just like jump in and figure it out. And that's kind of the way my team is too. So we were all on the same page with just start and we'll see how it goes and iterate. But my turning point for getting comfortable was actually, I was building out this podcast and then I didn't know about Matt Patterson's podcast. And I found it one morning and I just like started crying. I was like, who am I? Like I learned support from Matt Patterson. But then I made a shift. I started, instead of asking like, what authority do I have? I just started thinking, what would have helped me 5 years ago when I was a support manager? What would I have needed? And moving from that perspective, instead of like, who am I, makes it a lot easier to figure out what content to do and just have the guts to do it.
Yes, I think having the guts to do it for everybody here and everyone that posts anything on LinkedIn is usually the piece that stops you from doing it to begin with. And then once you do it and you realize you're still alive, you realize that no one is sending death threats because you have mediocre opinions on AI that you thought you wanted to share with someone. Then you start to find your voice and you start to think about different ways to share things. And then you come into these situations like all of you here have, where there are companies that want you to share your voice to lift up the company itself and show their customers that they're really paying attention, or show the community that their services are supporting, that they care enough about them to put this sort of stuff out there. And Matt Patterson, I think that this really connects with you and what you do with the supportive, where your role is to help the support community, which is so cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I mean, there is no more helpful and kind group of people to try and stand up in front of and say anything to than a support audience. Can confirm. Well, because my first talks were not when I was doing support. It was when I was a web designer. No, it was when I don't know. It was at my previous job where I suppose I was doing support, but I was talking about HTML email on stage. That's what I was doing. And most of the people in the audience at those web conferences hated HTML email. I got up on stage and asked, put your hand up if you hate HTML email. It was more than half the audience. So that's a much tougher place to start than with support, where everyone is desperately wanting you to succeed and happy to, listen carefully. So I think that's great. And while Jen was talking, I actually remembered, you have that feeling about, who am I to say these things? How can I teach somebody else? And all you need to know is a little bit more than the person who's reading it. And there are so many people whose first day in support is today. And the image just flashed into my head of meeting the Queen. I know she's not alive anymore, so let's cast our minds back to when she was alive. But if you were in that line and you have never met royalty before and you don't know how you're supposed to do it, what's the proper protocols and everything, the person who just met the Queen 10 seconds ago is absolutely your best friend in the world, because they've done it once, and that is all you need, is someone who's done it one more time than you.
Yep.
You just got to be that person.
Yep. No, it's so true. That's so true. And it's the validation piece too. I think that all four of you do this so well, where it's not even that you're presenting yourself as an expert in something. You're just letting people know, oh, hey, I did this too. I struggled with this too. I had this same question and I went here to get an answer, or I didn't get an answer and I figured out this other way around it, because in support, we've all seen this within the community. Like, we are all in our own little worlds, usually head down in the queue or thinking about a million other things. And we think that all of these things are happening to us only, and no one else ever experienced any of this before. And then once you have a moment to breathe and see the light and maybe ask a question in one of those support communities or CX communities, you see this flood of people come in and say, oh, you were brave enough, you were vulnerable enough to actually ask this question. And all of us have felt this so much. So it's really cool that you guys are able to do this. And it's great that you have companies that support you doing this. And Matt Beran, since you're coming from something outside of CX originally, how has it been finding your voice in this community where some of those experiences that you have might be very different than the day-to-day experiences that the CX community is facing?
A great question. I think humility, you approach things with humility and an open mind. I'm lucky enough that Invigate needed what I had. I've been podcasting in the IT space for almost over 10 years. 2008, I think, is when the first podcast started. And I've launched 4 podcasts. And what's unique is that I end up learning this stuff because I did experience management consulting for a little while. And I know how to do a lot of the human-centered design processes. And I know how to apply that to IT. But when I am engaged in CX, like if I'm on support driven or if I'm on CX Accelerator and I'm commenting, a lot of times I do have a hesitance because, what I know doesn't always apply in either the contact center space, the call center space, or even just like in B2C support, because so much of what I do is all internal all the time. So yeah, I just come to every conversation with some humility, ready to eat my words, and just, I offer help where I can, and maybe I'll learn something because whoever's talking is learning. So that's why you got to get involved.
No, it's true. And just the fact that you do share your experience, odds are someone else had that same question and they probably are in an industry or in a space that it is relevant. So even if it doesn't apply to the actual one person that asked that question, the fact that you were open enough to share it definitely helped other people. Luke, something that amazed me about you from the very beginning that made me be like, holy cow, I cannot believe this person. Well, yes, the mustache, that's a no-brainer. I mean, that was the billboard, Matt. But when I could not believe that you were open to coming on Ethical Growth and that you continue to want to talk to me after the podcast, is you have been like awarded for your out of the box and very blunt approach to talking about employee experience and the power of culture and the way to do things the right way. And we're in a world where people don't like to do things they've never seen before. And you are being loud about the quiet things so that people do know that a better way does exist. And it's so admirable, and I love that you are getting the recognition for this. But what happened in your space where you were just like, I'm just going to say it, and then you were just like, I'm going to continue to say it?
Oh, I think it comes from the fact that I've led thousands of people.
Yeah.
And made lots and lots of mistakes. And somewhere along the line, I found a formula that just worked, and I realized that, particularly in contact centers where it's just so rigid, and we have we treat people like they are just task-driven robots, and we treat these roles like they're entry-level roles, and then we expect that we wonder why they're leaving so soon. When we call them so, and we treat them like kids with pizza parties and freaking Hawaiian shirt days, and then we wonder why they behave like children, and it's like, and it's so much like parenting. So it's like when you see your kids, a reflection of yourself, you know, and you can't get angry because it's like, man, they've learned from me. And so as a leader in a space where you've led thousands of people, you start to realize that this behavior that you're seeing is a reflection of my leadership and the reflection of how I structure things. And so I started to structure things differently and started to think about, well, what's meaningful to me? What gives me purpose? What makes me feel like I have impact? Well, everybody else probably feels the same way. So how do I design something that actually works for that? And lo and behold, you know, the whole thing about being a thought leader as well, can I just like segue and say, like, being a thought leader isn't saying that you're like an expert, like we said. It's just you've got an idea and you share it. You're like, wouldn't mind your thoughts on it. Happy, shoot me down. And some people do. Some people shoot you down, right? But when you just do something because you realize that if I treat people like I want to be treated and I provide environment as a leader that I would want to work in as well. I don't know. It's so, I find it so funny sometimes that to me this is common sense sort of stuff, and people are like, man, you're an amazing thought leader. It's like, cool.
But it's true though, Luke, like you were brave enough to say it. And I think that each of you, Jen, Matt, other Matt, Luke, like you are all brave enough to say things that don't feel bold to you. They don't feel crazy to you because it should be common sense. But so many people have spent their lives like trying to push all of this stuff down and just trying to like be on the straight and narrow. And you decided to say, no, we're going to talk about this because change doesn't happen unless we talk about it, which brings me to my next thing about change, AI in content creation. I mean, we have all seen those arrows that exist on all of these LinkedIn posts that I have no idea where they live on a keyboard, but yet they are on every single LinkedIn post. And they're great posts. There's a lot of great information in there, but I don't know where those arrows can be found. So I am dying to know what you guys think about AI in content creation. Do you use it? You don't have to tell the truth if you don't want to. And and what role do you think that's going to have in content creation moving forward? And I'm just going to see who wants to say something first.
Well, it kind of relates to your last question. You know, we need to be authentic. You need to authentically be interested in this stuff. You need to authentically feel something to take a bold stance. And I think the same thing goes for content. You pointed out perfectly. People see through the AI. They know when you're using the AI. I haven't seen a lot of arrows on LinkedIn, so I have no idea what you're talking about. But
I'll show you the arrows one of these days.
Please do. I
We'll
can't
do
wait
it.
to see some. But I think when I use generative AI for is really brainstorming, getting ideas. You know, when I'm even some of those crazy ideas that I have, I'll have a conversation with an LLM over it and just see what other people are saying, seeing what other people are thinking. I also really I love Perplexity because it gives you the citations. And so when I'm researching a subject, a lot of times I'll have it come up with an outline and then I'm reading all the sources that it's used to develop its responses so that I'm learning. And so I think it really speeds up learning and it really speeds up creation. But I think I don't know, but I suspect that people genuinely want a human touch, that they want to hear from a person and they want that person to be vulnerable and be attackable and put their reputation on the line over some of this content. And I think that really is what differentiates AI content from human content.
Yeah. Oh, I love that last bit too that you said you put your reputation on the line, and you are all producing content for a company. And how do you navigate these ideas that could be out of the box? They could be controversial. They could be edgy, whatever word you want to put in there, but they're not safe. And you are attached, you are paid for the content that you are creating under the banner of these companies that employ you. So how the heck do you all navigate that? Matt Patterson, you're breathing in deep.
Yeah, that's what you do. Well, I mean, yes and no. Yes, it is true. But also, we're just talking about customer experience. Like, what's going to go wrong? We're not going completely off-piste unless we're producing content about Palestine or something, where might genuinely be a risk. We're just ultimately talking about like businesses talking to other businesses. So if anything, people should be doing more of like, just be more interesting, because there's so much just generic nothing out there filling up the internet. And anything you do that is more interesting than that will just get people engaged in a way. And you mentioned thought leaders before, and I mean, I don't love the term, but I try to think about what I would love to do is to lead other people to think. I mean, that's the kind of thought leadership I would like to do, which is like, we're doing support in a way, and you do the job, and you know so much stuff, and sometimes you need someone to just talk to you so that you can express to yourself, like, this is what I'm trying to do, and that makes me think about it in a different way, and now I can take that and apply that in a way that makes sense in my specific context at my particular job with my group of colleagues and customers. And that's what I want to do, really, is just like, can we talk about this thing that we do in a way that maybe triggers some new ideas for you? Like, if you do that, push as far as you like.
Oh, that's I love that. I'm going to now rethink my cringe around the words thought leader. Luke, you were going to say something, I think, about how you navigate this crazy world.
Look, I'm really lucky in that operator understands that there is the operator brand and there is the Luke Jamieson brand, and they are two separate but the same thing in some ways. And I can get on camera like this and talk from my perspective, and that shouldn't reflect on an operator. When I write for operator, I always write from the heart, and content I create is always genuine. But I also, you do have to have a bit of a lens on it to say that if it's controversial, then is that what you're putting out there for your brand, and it might not always stick. So that's where I'm really lucky, and I think if you can be in a position where there's an understanding that there is essentially two separate brands running parallel to each other, helping each other out, that's the way that works really well. So operator can support my content, I can support operator content, vice versa. That's like the dream. It's the dream. So it makes it really easy to navigate.
Yeah. No, that's a good way to do it. And the fact that your new space came to you and wanted you after you've already established yourself, that must be such an incredibly wonderful feeling of validation to know that you're working with someone that obviously aligns with your values, because you've made your values very, very clear. And and they're like, we want our customers to know that those are our values too. And so I'm going to make a billboard of this man's mustache so that everyone in Australia knows that we are aligned with Luke Jamieson. And that's nuts.
Yeah, it's very, very lucky, very lucky.
Jen, you've been entering this space from a world in the CX space for a long time, and you're now producing content on a regular basis. You're creating content calendars. You're having to think long term about what it is that your strategy is going to look like. So what have you learned, or what are your thoughts about staying consistent and evolving and not burning out?
Ooh, good question. I think I have two answers to that. I think in terms of not burning out and staying consistent, there's this idea about learning, this idea of diffuse thinking, where if you clear your working memory, you're not like taking in, not scrolling Facebook, you're not like doing things like, this is why people have really good ideas in the shower, right? Or on long walks, is like your working memory is clear. All the things in your brain can start to form connections. I think it's really important for me to have that time so I can keep coming up with ideas. And then two, I think I have a really solid idea, at least for now, of what my brand is. And it's like Luke was saying, it's the company I work for plus me, plus my ideal customer, right? So support managers, what they're interested in, what my skills and abilities are. I'm like a but how person. Like I need to be adaptable. Okay, but how? Or like I need to come up with good ideas. Okay, but how? Right? And so that really informed. I wanted my podcast to be tactical. I wanted everything from my brand to come. I mean, like Tetra, the stuff we build is all about getting insights where you need them quickly when you need them, right? So I wanted that. I wanted everything that we build, every content that I build to feel like a plug and play upgrade for your CX immediately. And so when I think about that, and then I have some diffuse, like non overwhelmed thinking time, it's easier for me to come up with ideas and just move forward. Hopefully they're good. Hopefully they're useful. We're still finding it out, you know?
No,
Mate,
that makes
I come
total
up with
sense.
rubbish ideas all the time, and they get shot down, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that you keep having ideas, I think, is the key. Can I just jump in and say one other thing while we're talking about like brand, and it's really two things. One is the roles that we do are actually not that dissimilar to the roles that a contact center person might do. You are a keeper of the brand, no matter who you work or what role you're in. You are the keeper of the brand. You represent the brand, and that doesn't mean that you are not you. I think that's why so many people moved. Like when we talked about the Great Resignation, there was this realization that I want to align myself with a brand that aligns with me. So there was a lot of movement around that. So I think maybe not that dissimilar. The only other thing I'll say is when you said before about validation about my brand, it doesn't mean that I don't have Matt in front of the time and just think, oh man, what am I doing? It comes no matter how long you've been doing this for, I reckon. Well, it does for me. And every now and then you just got to grow onto those things that when someone says, hey, I really love that piece of content. It really resonates with me. Or you get a text message from someone you managed 10 years ago and said, hey, you gave me a piece of advice and that got me the job this week. It's like, those are the moments you come back to and go, yep, cool. On the path, stick with it, you know?
Yep. No, that is so valid because it is crazy. The things that you think are going to work, the things you think are going to blow up and go viral with in the way that LinkedIn goes viral. I don't know if you really can go viral on LinkedIn, but I'm sure you can figure something out. But those are the things that usually get like 4 people seeing it. I mean, the algorithm's working against you. It's like some cruel joke that LinkedIn is playing on you. It's like they've been following you in your journey of like on Canva for 16 hours trying to make the best carousel that has ever been created, only using neon colors to really stand out. And then nothing happens, but then you post a picture of your kid. I mean, this is personal experience here. Post a picture of your kid sledding for the first time, and that ends up like getting so many people paying attention to it, and it's like, I don't use any other social media. I thought this was a cool picture of my kid, and I'm just gonna put it here. And so, but so like you have no control over what is gonna take, and so you always have to be staying true to yourself, but knowing you don't know what people are gonna find valuable, and which makes it a little bit more exciting. It's like a gamble every time that you post anything. What the math?
Skewed view. I think we've got a skewed
No,
view
you go.
on virality, and it's because we've seen TikTok and these things with millions of views. LinkedIn does actually work like that. Like, I've got a pretty good understanding of how the algorithm works. It actually is quite targeted to your key audience, which I think is a good thing. And I think this idea of virality is blown it out of proportion. We think that we have to be TikTok famous. But that's not true. If you get 5,000 impressions on a post, 1,000 on a post, whatever, and you're like, it's just not that good. But then if you told someone, hey, I'm speaking in front of 500 people or 1,000 people, like people are like, whoa, that's huge.
That's
You're
true.
reaching 1,000 people online. So, we just got to think that sometimes.
I think
No.
also, like, if you think of it like a knowledge base, you're creating a knowledge base, and it isn't necessarily that the content has to go viral, or I say virus in our house to drive my teenagers crazy. I don't want to go virus, but but your backlog ends up being, it ends up serving your purpose. You may not get 10,000 views on day one, but look at it again in a year. I'll bet it probably got 10,000 views, because especially if it's useful content, people will just keep coming back to it and coming back to it and coming back to it. And I think, as long as you're helping people, doesn't matter how many people saw it. Could be one. They'll come up and tell you about it later and say, you saved the day.
Yeah. No, that's so true, which leads me to a question that I've always wanted to ask people that actually know what they're doing. Sometimes on LinkedIn, sometimes, and by that I mean all the time, I see people that have a very large following repurposing the same content over and over and over again. And maybe like the spiel is a little bit different, but the actual like picture or carousel is exactly the same. How do you four navigate having a bucket that could really be relevant 4 years from now or 2 weeks from now? Like, how do you do that? Yes, sir.
Oh, I was pointing at Pato.
Oh.
Okay, one, I hate it. It's so boring. That's just the honest truth. I hate repurposing, but also I know that it obviously is what needs to happen. There's a lot of parents in this room. You know how many times you have to tell someone something before it gets into their brain. Like, it's the same for adults too. And so it makes perfect sense. And we spend so long putting those things together. I just find it personally incredibly dull to actually do.
So what's the amount of
that's my
time?
struggle.
Like, so that people don't see it as like lazy or like boring or something like that. Like, how long do you wait?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I put up something today. If I put the same thing up in 10 minutes, a whole bunch of different people will see it. It's not the same people seeing it over and over
No,
again.
that's true.
Unless you're really like a big super fan of that person and you see every post that they ever do, right? Which is fair enough. Then it does get a bit tedious. But for most of the content, especially in a B2B context, people are not going to see every post that your company blog puts out or whatever, or the social media posts from them. So you can reuse them without a huge amount of effort, and it will just pick up different people each time. And often, like if you've ever gone back and reread a book that you read 5 years ago, the exact same content, it presented in exactly the same way, means something different to you when you're a different person. So you can reuse it. And I am very excited that we are hiring a social media person here at Help Scout, so I don't have to do as much of it personally because I value it. I just am not particularly good at it or excited about it.
Oh, that's really cool. That means that you're doing something right if you have the budget to then expand your space. So way to go. Awesome. But how do you then, I want to ask Luke this because your approach to sharing content, especially with how creative you get with like the 2020-ish series and all of the other incredible stuff that you put out there that's fun and out of the box sometimes in a way that makes us remember like we do enjoy going to LinkedIn. Like we do get fun, cool things when we're on LinkedIn. How do you organize all of this wonderful, fun content that you're creating so you don't lose it?
That's a good question. 2020 is still yet to find a home as outside of LinkedIn. We've thought about creating a website, but it's a lot of work. And the CX lead has offered to pick that up and host it, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's not easy. I think like if I think about we're talking about repurposing, I'm terrible at it. I'm so bad at it. I could have repurposed 2020-ish. I just haven't. I think it's probably also my ADD, just moving on to the next thing and the next idea and trying to get those out as well. But To be honest, Sarah, it's actually pretty disorganized.
Well, good. That makes me feel better. You don't want to see my sad, quick attempts at organizing Canva or Google Docs or all of those things. And then a week later, suddenly I have no organization and I have like managed to create 700 new things in Canva that actually they're nothing. They're just like templates that I clicked on and created something and I never deleted it.
God,
And so anything that I need is like lost in this thing, and it's probably named the template because I forgot to name it. And now I
Makes my
just
eye twitch. It's
Yep.
true.
I walk away and I eat an Oreo. That's why the Oreos are gone at the end of 5 days.
I tell you, like one practical tip that I have actually started doing with the podcast episodes. I mean, it's so dumb, it's so basic, but literally just putting a folder and putting for each episode a folder inside the folder that says the promo clips, and then naming them something useful so that I can remember what that clip is about, so that I can
That's really
reuse it
smart.
later. Just because I know that I'm going to have to go back and find some clip from that episode, and I don't want to do it twice. So if I've already done it, just giving it a good name and putting it somewhere I can actually find it has been so helpful.
That's a great idea.
Not episode 1, number 2.2.4. No, that doesn't work.
Yeah, clip 9.
Yeah. With a key that you have to go and find in like your notes field somewhere to be able to navigate it. Well, you are my people, so I feel very seen right now. When you started growing your LinkedIn following, I think this is more of a question for anybody that's like, I'm too late to this party, or I don't know where to start. Or, I mean, last year at this time, I literally had 49 connections on LinkedIn. Like nothing, absolutely nothing. Yes, exactly. And like, what did you do or what was it that made you decide to commit to seeing what would happen, and how did things start to grow for you? Matt Beran.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations on 2,640 followers, Sarah. Well done.
Thank you.
Over 500
friend.
connections.
Yeah.
I love the hair flip. That's a good
No
touch.
big deal.
I had a realization about 7 years ago that no one was doing influencing in the IT space. No one was doing the YouTuber of the IT space. And so, I've got IT experience, and it's something that I'm really interested in, and something my career will always be in the IT space, unless AI takes it over. And so I had a revelation like 7 years ago to just say, like, look, go all in. Don't hold back. Be you, be authentic, be true to yourself, and just commit and do it. And I happened to find a company that wanted me to do it a couple of years later. And so that helps a lot to have a team that's pushing you to organize your folders and, plan out your social media posts and reuse your content. So that really helped. But no, I realized personally I would be committed to doing this for the rest of my life. And that really made a huge difference. It changed my patterns. It changed the equipment in my office. It changed how much I'm willing to spend on my own work, as opposed to asking my company to always compensate me for everything. It's a lifelong goal and a lifelong dream.
So cool. I love that so much. But you invested in yourself.
Yeah.
You were brave enough to say, like, I'm going to commit to this because I trust myself. I trust my knowledge. I want to share my knowledge. Who cares what happens with it? But I'm not going anywhere. And look at what happens. Like, I mean, we all have to start somewhere, but we also all have to be brave enough to bet on ourselves as well. Yeah. What about you three? Luke, Matt, Jen?
What was the question?
I was actually hoping you guys remembered because I forgot.
No, it's a when did you know? When did you decide that you were going to become this, that you were going to post on LinkedIn regularly and share your content?
Thanks, co-host. I appreciate you very much.
By all means.
I mean, for me, it was a strategic decision on the part of my team. You know, when I was hired at Tetra a couple of years ago, my boss said, what we like to do is hire people who do things, who do things well, and then figure out what they're really good at and move them into that. And so I did customer success for a couple of years, and I was good at that. And he realized, you're pretty good on camera, which is him saying that. I hope I am. And I'm pretty good with tutorials and showing people things. And so we decided, let's do more of that. And I didn't go into it kicking and screaming, but I went into it because somebody told me to. I was like, okay, I'm game. Let's do it. Still seeing how it goes.
It's going really well. No, it's your story, Jen, is so cool because the fact that you were established in a company, you were doing something totally different, and then the CEO came to you and said, "We believe in you to do this." And it's nothing that you brought up to them. It's nothing that was in your wheelhouse or dream of your future. And they came to you and they said, we're going to make a whole new role. You didn't even know what to call your role because it was created just for you.
Yeah, that took a few months to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah. You got there though. You got there.
Yeah, it's super fun. It's such a great team. I love being on a team that's flexible and really interested in what people are good at like that.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of job titles, I want to ask each of you this. What do you think? Because I know you all have job titles and all of your job titles are different. So, what do you think an ideal job title is for whatever the heck you are doing as your career of choice? Luke, you're laughing. What do you got?
It's so hard. This is the thing. My title is evangelist. They're all healed. It's I particularly in Australia, people just think you're a wanker. You probably have to put an E next to the episode. But I don't know, but it is kind of true, right? You're out there, you're trying to, tell a story. I don't know what the right title is. Content creator, director, evangelist, whatever. I actually think on that. I think it's what we deliver and what we talk about and how we deliver it. That's what matters.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Who has business cards these days?
Oh, yeah. I mean, business cards with evangelist, that's kind of a good flex right there. Just flick that one over, slide it across the table.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
What's a business card?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the good old days. Matt Patterson, what's your job title and what do you think job titles should look like for what you do?
What is my title? Let me just check LinkedIn. Couldn't tell you in my head. When do the two times that job titles actually matter? You're trying to get another job, and therefore it needs to sound like the thing that you want. Or you're trying to commit someone to talk to you for, because you want to interview them or whatever, and then they look you up. That's the only time it matters. The rest of the time, who cares? So if you've got a particular job in mind that you want to work towards, just try and get a job title change. Most businesses that I've worked in, not all of them, but a lot of them don't particularly care. They have their internal job title. And then on LinkedIn, they're like, if you just came to them and said, I wanted to just tweak how it looks on LinkedIn, they'd be like, sure, doesn't matter to us. So yeah, pick one that makes sense and kind of moves you towards the direction you want to go in. I mean, the main difference that I've found when changing the job title on LinkedIn is just a different variety of spam that you get. So,
It's very true.
It's nice if you want to get different people harassing you.
This is very true. Matt Beran, what's your job title and what do you think your job title should be?
When I'm using an LLM to coach me, I use the term evangelist. And there's a great book actually about evangelism as a profession. If you haven't read
the Holy Bible.
Yeah.
It's my book. Won't you buy it? No. But I think I like what Pato said specifically. The when does the job title actually serve you? And a lot of times it's when you're getting up and speaking in front of an audience. They want to see, what do you do? What do you actually care about? So, and my company did it kind of the same way that Jen's company did. They were like, we're going to hire you. We don't know what role you're going to be in, so we'll find something eventually. And the one that they landed on was senior, and I'm not that old, but senior product marketing specialist. Because what I do is I'm pushing a product all the time, and I am marketing that product, and a lot of that has to do with being really good at using that product too. And so I think that term or that title actually fits really well. But it is much more splashy, right? It's much more, half the time I'm not actually product marketing. I'm actually evangelizing. So which one is right?
But Matt, that's the first time that I've actually heard a job title that is one that has already existed within like a company's ecosystem that like connects you to the company as a whole versus what I think most of us would think of, which would be let's create something new and different because this is not a normal role. But I like that they position you that way because I bet within the organization, it was easier for people to feel connected to you because you were a recognizable job title. You weren't something crazy
Nebulous.
or different or new that would probably make them feel a little bit nervous or, not sure of how to approach you. So I kind of like that.
Thanks.
Now, Jen, what'd you land on? Yeah, what was it?
Head of customer engagement.
I like that.
Yeah, I was very intentional with it. I still work with our larger customers directly, kind of as a CSM, so I wanted to preserve that. Also, I agree with the Matts. Like a job title really doesn't matter except when you're getting your next job. And I wanted to preserve my ability to go back into customer success I wanted to do everything customer. Like I want that. I'm good at pretty much everything customer. I wanted to be able to do that in the future. And I really like working at, I only want to work at small companies and startups. And head of tends to be kind of a startup type role. So I was just really trying to preserve my optionality for the future. That said, I'm happy to stay at Tetra for, a long time and keep doing what I'm doing now.
No, I think that's really cool. And it's interesting because I think the CX space, I think Matt Patterson, like you and I talked about this briefly when you were on the podcast too, of like within the CX space, people name the roles very bizarre things. Like there is nothing that is just across the board. Maybe the word customer is involved sometimes, but I've been a happiness specialist. I've been a relationship specialist. I've been a service. I've been a support. I've been all the things. And it's you see this a lot in startups, especially where they want to seem fun. And like you were saying, Luke, it's that culture that you're creating. It's the pizza party type of mentality. And though the intentions are probably very good, at the same time, it is lessening the legitimacy of this career path because what are you supposed to do when you're looking for jobs? Like if I'm looking for a job on LinkedIn, I just write CUST and see what happens. And it's because it's just the wild, wild west in the world of CX for job titles. And I think that is such a disservice to so many people, especially people that are like building a career, thinking about having a career in CX, to understand what a career path actually looks like, because every job title means something totally different, and the same job titles are usually attached to totally different departments, and so they don't even connect whatsoever. So I think it's very it makes sense that every single one of you has a different job title. You are all doing different things, but your focus is still the same. And it'll be interesting to see how it evolves, because this role, I think, is going to be popping up way more now that customer experience is a differentiator that people actually are realizing. And I'll be curious to see what job title people start to lean into more, and what you see on job descriptions and that sort of thing as well. Two final things that I wanted to bug you guys about. Mostly this is selfish for me. But courses, skills, social platforms, newsletters, like if you could think of one or two things that people who are curious about content creation, especially within the CX space, what they should invest in or spend time learning about, what are your top two things? I'll start with the other Matt Patterson, because I usually start with Matt Beran with these things when I go to the Matts. Matt Patterson, what is your two?
Two things. Oh, well, I mean, it's hard. I would say the biggest thing you can do is probably not anything to do with customer support at all. It's probably just like input from things outside of the customer support world. If you want to do content, you'll be more interesting if you've got other things to talk about that aren't just exactly the same things everybody else is talking about. So read widely in whatever interests you and see what you can pull out of that, because there'll be tons of stuff. The other thing I did was make a list for myself of like other creators of things, especially people who are talking about kind of boring topics and making them interesting. Like Michael Lewis does a great job of writing about like very tedious financial things. Bill Bryson makes treble stories funny. I like Zay Frank talking about weird stuff about animals. Just lots of inspirations of like you can do all sorts of interesting things no matter what the topic is.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Really good point. Luke, what about you? What are your two?
I am very similar to Matt in that response. I don't really draw the inspiration from CX stuff as far as like content goes, which is maybe why my content is always the same. You know, like I love a good game show, and yeah, so I probably draw inspiration from that. So, but what I will say is, if you're going to draw, you need a creative input, but they also need that factual input. The longer I spend away from the practitioner side in a contact center, the more you have to surround yourself with people so you don't lose touch. So it's really important to stay connected with your base, stay connected with who it is that you are trying to serve, and you don't have to be a practitioner. You do have to listen. And so there's some great resources out there to do that. Spend time with your customers, spend time with your friends who are still in that space, hear the problems they've got, hear the challenges they've got, and join things like the CX Accelerator. If you're going to go to other CX people, get on the CX Accelerator and talk with other people and listen and chat, and that's a great community to do that sort of stuff in.
Yeah, the communities that are out there are such wonderful spaces to kind of understand what other people are thinking about, what's important to other folks and how they're approaching it. And you not only learn, but you just kind of are reminded of this awesome group of people that you're lucky enough to spend your time talking to. Matt Beran, what are your two?
I would say the things that I've learned that I draw on the most are my time in theater and my time in high school speech. Those are the two things that help me the most. But if I were going to research beyond those things, I would say research writing is number one. Being able to research something deeply and broadly is super useful in content creation. And then the second one that I would recommend people definitely focus on is self-care. And that goes for just about every industry and just about every role and job. But one where you are representing a brand and being public constantly, you've got to be good, because otherwise someone will suck your energy out and you will have none left, and you'll say something that you'll regret or that your brand will regret. So take care of yourselves.
That was a good mic drop. I appreciated that, Luke. Jen, what have been the big things since you've joined this space that have really made a difference for you?
You know, it's so meta, but the content creators for the tools that I use, like Riverside, which is a podcasting recording platform that we're using right now, has some amazing content. and Buzzsprout, which is the distributor that I use, also amazing content. Like they're doing what we're doing. Wait a second. Okay. We're doing it for customer support and IT people. They're doing it for us. Right. And it's phenomenal content. I found Jade Beeson that way. She did a Riverside webinar, and I usually go into a webinar like, okay, well, I'm just going to read a book. Like this is just going to be, and it was phenomenal. So I follow her now. I haven't done her course, but I'm looking at it. And two, just, I think it depends on the kind of person you are. I know that I'm somebody who can be like a sponge when I'm interested in something. So like the people in this room, I've learned a lot from. I was watching Matt Beran on doing a podcast, and I don't know if you guys will be able to see, but Matt, you always do this thing where you give very affirmative, like silent gestures and facial expressions to your guests. And that just like leveled up my podcasting to the next level when I started copying you on that, because my guests are like, oh, okay, she's listening. I get it. Okay, here we go. I'm going to talk, without interrupting the soundtrack. Right. So just like absorbing things from people who are doing something similar to what you're doing works for me,
All right. We are past time by 12 seconds. And so I know we've already had one mic drop, but I want to give everyone a chance. If there's one final either piece of advice or surprise, or even you want to just say what you're having for dinner tonight, now is the time. I'm going to pick everyone at random, which is the same order that I've probably done 13 times by now. Jen, I'm going to start with you. What do you want to close this with?
I think it's just important to know yourself. You might get advice from people, what works for them, but they're an entirely different personality. And I think working with your strengths is really important. So if you've ever done like the Clifton Strengths Finder test, their whole deal is forget about the things you're bad at. Like, don't try to move those levers up, move the things you're good at up even more. And I think doing that is really important. And then that helps to know kind of what to delegate to other people, things you're not great at.
That's great advice. That's awesome advice. Matt Patterson.
The generic content is going to disappear into the middle of nothing. Be yourself, know who you are, just go in that direction.
Love it. Yep, it's true. Crazy things happen when you actually say the stuff that you were too afraid to say out loud. And it makes for really cool conversations. It makes for meeting really cool people like you four right here. And your life could change like mine did, because I just started saying the stuff that I was too afraid to say out loud. So I definitely agree. Luke, mic drop me.
Matt's kind of said it, but you've got to be yourself. It's a lesson learned along the way, which was, and maybe I mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned this on your podcast, Sarah, but when I was in corporate, I came from pretty Aussie sort of space. Like I had a really thick Australian accent, if thicker than it is now. I had my manager told me I had to go get a voice coach to dial it down, to be more professional and to change if I wanted to be successful in corporate. And it was the worst advice I ever got. And I genuinely think it's just be yourself. And I think the more I be myself, the more I find that I am successful. I become comfortable with conversation and whatever. I'm not apologetic about it. It probably is also why things like using AI is actually really hard for me, because it can't generate content that is anything like me, and that's a good thing. That's
so true.
Yeah, if you want to create great content, just be yourself.
Yep, it's true. Matt Beran, close it out, my friend.
I'd say don't let great get in the way of good. The best time to start creating content is 10 years ago, and the second best time is to start now. I love Pato called out Zay Frank. Zay Frank has this great philosophy. It's FILDI. F it, let's do it. And that is what you have to grasp onto that. Try things. Do the things. You will get better at them.
Yep. It's true. It is so true. I'm so honored to have been able to spend this time with you four. Thank you for trusting me to gather you all together and ask you a bunch of questions. Thank you for being honest and vulnerable. And I think that you are all proof that we are all capable of so much more than we realize. We just have to trust ourselves enough to let it happen. And so thank you for doing what you do, giving a voice to this great community. And I hope that you have a great rest of your day.
So fun. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
making
Awesome.
this
Thanks
happen.
for
Until
going
next time.
over. Thanks for
Hooroo.
everything. Safe travels.
Sounds good. Hooroo.
Hooroo!
Hooroo.
What is
Bye-bye.
Haru?
Cheers.
You'll
Well,
have to have a
hooroo.
call with Luke and he'll tell you all about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
See you.
Bye, guys.
See you.